Okay, so again, these are, children. And this this is going to be the largest wood construction project in the state of Vermont in 1971. And uh, neither the two flanking people in this drawing, neither one of them owned a hammer. So anyway, this is where we got started. We said, let's do a structural system that is based on the module of a piece of plywood, 4x8 sheet of plywood, and we'll build everything in in uh, on that module. And what we'll do is we'll build this big structure, and then people can come along and they can build their own houses in it. And what we'll do is we'll build the structure, and we'll build the community building, which was a part of this, where people could stay when they were building their own house. And we'll build our three houses and then go back to school in the fall. No problem. Um, this is the construction shed, where we had our sound system, our kitchen, our office, our tools, everything that we owned was in this. And we were sleeping in tents over to this side of this. I can give you a brief on why the name is Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon is a dinosaur that had this sail on its back, and they think that the animal used its sail to control its temperature. So if it needed to warm up, it could turn into the sun and circulate its blood through this sail and warm it up. Essentially a solar collector. And so we named the building. Incidentally, if you have any questions, ask them, because you'll probably forget them by the end. And it could be more interesting if you ask them during the thing. Anyway, we were down visiting the only active solar building in the United States in 1971. A guy by the name of Harry Thomason in Washington, D.C. had a working solar building. And when we were visiting there, we went to the Museum of Natural History, came across the Dimetrodon. We said, hey, this is a slam dunk. It was later pointed out to us that this had been extinct for several 100 million years. So again, we didn't, yeah.
Then the undue fund came up. You were about to talk about Japanese megastructures.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say on that relative to its influence on?
I'm gonna get to more of that.
Cool.
So we didn't have a lot of money, but we dug a giant hole for the whole place. And then we used really high technology to lay out our building. You can see this guy is doing, Bill is running a transit on this, and he's standing on a board which is moving up. Anyway, it's like I say, we didn't really know what we were doing, and we screwed up. I had never poured concrete before. I didn't really know what to do, how to do it, or anything else. And we made every mistake in the book. But yeah, this is typical of the day at Dimetrodon. But we got, after we made a lot of mistakes, we got actually really good at doing concrete. And we took all the scrap plywood we had and made these forms and poured concrete. We got really, really good at it. The system, this was an active solar building. You guys know what the difference between active and passive is? Active is having something mechanical collecting the energy and then running that through your house. Passive is having southern facing windows, basically. That's almost doing nothing. And this was because the only working solar building in the United States was an active building, we modeled our structure after that. And the way that worked was there was a black roof, corrugated metal roof, and you dripped water down that roof. This is going to sound pretty primitive, I realize. But you dripped water down the roof, it heated up, and it was collected in these three beautiful tanks down in the basement. And then the tanks were surrounded with fist-sized stones or bigger that were very, very clean. And then underneath this, you can see there's a row of concrete blocks. You blew air through those concrete blocks. It came up around the warm stones and then circulated through your house, and you were bathed in the warm air created by this solar system. This was way over my head, way over our head. Let me just finish on that. We couldn't get the right stones. We filled we filled this whole area up with what amounted to gravel. And there was just no way in the world that any air would circulate through this. And so eventually what we realized was, and furthermore, circulating air is a really difficult thing to do. You need great big ducts and fans and all kinds of things. We changed the whole thing over to a hydronic system, maybe 5 years after this, after we got going, and got it to work really well. Kyle, this is what we considered to be the structure of the place. This is a model which built several years after the fact, but this was the concept. Bill was really the engineer of this, and what it amounts to is a series of these big trusses, right? And they're 16 feet apart. The community buildings are 24 feet. These are 16 feet apart, which is a simple span for available lumber. It's 2 sheets of plywood, all. So these big trusses served a couple of different purposes. They gave structure to the place so that the concept being is you could buy one of this shows 10 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These 5 in the community building were finally constructed. This side was never built. But the concept was that you would buy a space in this, and you'd have electric brought to your space, you'd have plumbing brought to your space, you'd have septic brought to your space, and you'd have the structure of a house. And then an individual would come along and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do with the roof, here's what I'm going to do with the rooms, it was a DIY thing. Okay, so what we soon found out was that we could not build the whole structure. It didn't make sense for us to build the whole structure to start off with. We would build the structure as we went along. And this is us building the community building, which was 24 feet wide. So what you see there is 3 8-foot bays. Now, I want you to notice what's happening in the background of this picture. Remember I said we were going to come here, we're going to build the community building in our 3 units and then go back to school. So this is a community building that we're going to live in for the winter. And as you can see, there's already no leaves on the trees. Let me just go back to, oops. Oh, man, okay, so in terms of design build, What we're doing in this picture is we are building the trusses, and we are also trying to decide what the spaces are going to be like inside. This is real, what I call real design build, where the architects, if you can call us that at this time, again, we're 23-year-old, 1 year of architecture school kids, where the architects are making decisions with the maximum amount of feedback. You're actually in the space and you're getting to decide. You have the hammer, you have the skill saw, and you are actually doing the construction while this is happening, while you're in charge of all the design decisions. We got in. I don't have a photograph. The night we moved in, there was 3 inches of snow inside the building. Uh, and we lived there for the first year, and then Bill decided that he needed to go on a motorcycle trip to Guatemala. So we stayed around, and at the time, down in Hancock, I know everybody's driven through Hancock, and on your right, as you're going through town, there's the old Weyerhaeuser plant where they used to make plywood. They used to make plywood paneling for doing people's basements and stuff. And the plywood paneling came in crates. And the crates were made out of Philippine mahogany. And they threw the crates away. And so since we didn't have any money, we drove to Hancock, took the crates, and made stuff out of them. We sided the tower out of it. We did a lot of stuff. This is the bathroom in the community building, which overhangs the living room. And that's a mahogany bathtub on the right, 2 sinks, and a toilet, what we call the toilet tower, on the left. This is what we did with our leftover plywood. This is a kitchen countertop and sink and floor, all made out of scrap plywood, edge grain showing.
Was that a construction photo? Like, I'm confused, like where the floor is.
The floor, this is interesting. There's a floor down here, and there's a bathroom floor up here. So you can stand on that floor and use these sinks. Now do you understand?
Okay, so you approach from another side.
What's that?
You
Yeah,
approach from
approach from the
the
other
side.
side,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. Hard to get into the bathtub from down below. Yeah. What prompted us to do this was we had an old bathtub up there. And it was very nice to be able to take a bath without separating yourself from all the stuff that was going on down below. So people would be partying and having a great time, and you could go up there and take it, but no one could see you because they were all down below. And you could talk to them and things like that. So we decided, hey, let's make this permanent. So that's the kitchen. And again, we're the guys who are making it, and we're the guys who are designing it. This is a little closer picture of the structure. And I have a few more. The community building here is on your right, and Trav's house, which is the first house that we built, is in the foreground. And you can start to see what the structure actually, what these trusses actually look like. Okay, so this is, whoops. Yeah, so this is topping off Trav's house. You can see that those rafters, the rafters of the roof are a simple span. Those are 2x10s, just spanning 16 feet. And his floors are all in between here in various different places. Okay, so let me explain a few things on this. This is the original on the right part, on the community building part over here. This is the original Thompson Collector. So this is cow wall, and it's on top of corrugated roofing like this. So along the top of this, water is dripping down, it's being collected in a trough at the bottom. It's going into the tanks and heating up the tanks. And basically that's all it's doing. This on the left here, we're beginning to frame the house that belonged to me. Back when we were still in school, we were talking about all different kinds of alternative energy. Not only solar, but we wanted to do wind and methane gas generation and biomass and all kinds of different things. And this was not a popular topic back then. So we drove out to, along with the early Northern Power people, North Wind Power at the time, we drove out to out west, and we bought secondhand some windmill towers and some windmills, electrical generating windmills. And this is us on a Thanksgiving weekend getting ready to tip up a tower. We had built one tower by putting the pieces together as we went up, which was really frightening. And so we decided that we would try and tip one up, which we did, which we actually did. It was unbelievable. We tied a rope to the Dimetrodon tower and tied it to this, and a tractor lifted it up most of the way. And then we drove, we had a travel all at the time. We hooked the rope up to that and we drove that like mad, and the tower tipped up. And it was a great celebration. And this is what it looks like this is a view from the tower. And you can see here up in this corner, the pulley and the rope that we used to tip it up. And you can get a look at the structure also on the side. The structure did two things really, really well. Number one, it was incredibly strong. But number two, it really helped organize. If you're asking five different people, five different designers, or any kind of people to do a multifamily house, you really need a way to control the whole thing so it just doesn't become five people, building whatever they want and having a big mishmash. And what the structure ended up doing is it really kept control of that. The only thing you had to express the structure when you were building your house. Okay, here's what it looks like with the first. This is a Jacobs windmill up on there, and that was generating DC power, which we were at this point in time, we were starting to get the idea that that doing an air system was really not going to work. We had batteries for this, and we were transferring it over to AC power. And then in early days, we had a synchronous inverter. In early days, we were doing net metering with GMP. This is in the 70s. No, wrong way, sorry. Okay, so this is the west side of the building. And this just gives you an idea of different people handled the way they related to the structure and things differently. This is McClay's place in here. He bubbled out like this and bubbled out down here. I ran this thing down and curved in and stuff. Hito did, went up here and made something that stuck out here. Everybody, it was okay to do whatever you wanted as long as the structure, as long as you could sense the structure going on in between what you did. This picture also shows the chimney. At this point in time, we shifted over the system. We got a DOE grant and we put a much higher tech water collection thing on the roof, which was contained. It wasn't open. And then we backed that up with a wood boiler in the basement. That was, and you can see the chimney for that. And so what we were doing was we were heating up water, and then we had a heat exchanger in the tanks, and then circulated that water to all the different houses. Very, very much cheaper to run easier to run the pipes, very much cheaper to run pumps than it is blowers. Just ended up being a way better solution for it. This is like a typical weekend day. Somebody's building and hey, let's do this, or we're gonna hang this off, or hey, can we get a hand doing whatever? It was I think you can start to see one of the difficulties we started to run into early on right there. It changed things quite a bit, but what started off as being more or less a bunch of guys doing this gradually became a bunch of guys and a bunch of women, all builders, architects, right in the program, gardeners, cooks, whatever. Sort of everybody doing everything, and slowly but steadily became 5 families, the community building, and 11 kids. This, you might have picked up on this in one of the other pictures. This was like a typical thing that could happen. This at the bottom here is a solar collector, flat plate solar collector, which thermosiphoned hot water into these 3 55-gallon drums with a paint can and some visual stuff put on to the top. And we use this for an outdoor shower. So it looks a little hair-raising in this picture. The place also was a little bit self-selecting. It's not everybody who wants to move into something like this. And gradually, the 3 of us became 4 of us, 5 of us. Like I say, 5 families and a group of people who were pretty much changing over on a regular basis in the community building. The tower was originally built because we had 6 or 7 of us living in the same room the first year in the common building, and that wasn't working out when when you had guests. So we built the tower. The idea was you got an 8 by 8 by 8 cube, and you could do whatever you wanted. So Bill built the first one down here. I built the next one. Trav built the next one. Scotia built the top one, and it made things no more private. So this is kind of what we ended up with. I think this drawing, there are no drawings of Dimetrodon. None. Actually, that's not quite true for something, for some grant or something like that. I did a bunch of sections and elevations, but they were done probably in the 90s or something like that. And this drawing is a perspective over which, I think when we did this, we were trying to figure out this entrance way. If you look in this picture, the entrance to the whole place is this stair thing going up here, and with no railing and made of completely rotten wood. And it failed one night, and we decided we had to have something that was more permanent. So interestingly, we've got this community where there's uh, 4 or 5 architects and a nurse and a school teacher and a bunch of us. So we set out to do this, figure out an entrance way. And there were lots of ideas. Everybody thought theirs was the best and stuff. But the school teacher was the one who came up with this, and one we finally built. Uh, this is unit number 7, the one that we lived in. And what I'm trying to show in this slide is that this is 900 square feet, this whole unit. And it's on 7 different levels. So this is the master bed up here. When my wife was here, was pregnant with our first child, we didn't have a bathroom in the house. So she had to go down here, down here, down here, down here, down here, down here, out the door, next door, up 3 levels to go to the bathroom. And then back again. This, although we loved living here, with 2 dogs, 3 boys, and the 2 of us, it became difficult to do that. So this is our house from the outside, and you can see where if you have a structure and you say, okay, here's your place, you can do whatever you want with it. This is the architect and the contractor being one person, right? So this is the door to my bathroom up on this level. And this is a little porch off of which you could do stuff. And then this is my fire escape, comes down the side. And this is where the fire escape comes around that bend, comes through this thing, and becomes a 3-dimensional drawer pull. So what we discovered in the process of doing this was that everything was an opportunity to do some design work. I mean, even EMT, I'm saying, hey, I got to put some wiring in here. Well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So there wasn't anything that wasn't where we didn't have an opportunity to make a little flourish or change something, or put an original Nancy Taplin on your panel box or do whatever. Yeah, this is what our original garden turned out to be. This is a shared garden with 5 different families. Each person, we tried doing the communal garden thing, and there's some things you don't want to go near. Cars and gardens are not a good thing to share. So we separated this out, and it's a good example of why multifamily housing really works. You can get you can get somebody to come and rototill the whole place and split it by 5. You can get somebody to come and plow your driveway and split it by 5. You can have one washer dryer and split the cost of it by 5. Everything, you can still have your own kitchen sink and bathroom and, pantry and all those things. But there's a lot of stuff, the cost of the land, the taxes, the, so many things were possible because we weren't paying for the whole thing.
On that note, how long did it take you to come clean with Dave's offer on?
Well, we got 2 people to buy in and we did, Scotia and Hito both bought in and we paid off Dave.
With that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was nice about it. He didn't
Yeah.
charge us a lot of interest. He realized that it was good for him too. I mean, it was really a different thing than anybody was doing at the time. So this was a fantasy drawing of the whole place. And this is a really important point. We started off doing an architectural project. The whole idea here was, hey, we can do housing, you can build your own place, this thing is really going to be amazing and everything else. And what quietly happened alongside of it, and why it was the biggest success was the sort of social thing that was going on there at the same time. There were 5 families, all raising children. We did all kinds of great stuff with the kids together. Somebody'd say, hey, we're cooking out tonight. Great, let's do that. We're going to Green River, pile in, let's go. Our children had a wonderful relationship with the other parents, because they were part of the deal. Hey, we're all doing this cool thing together. These guys are cool too, So, and they still do. I love telling this. Of the original 5 families that started Dimetrodon, we all live within a mile of the place. We all live within a mile of each other, and we're all still best friends. And that's we went through this whole thing. I realized the building and the concept was selective. So not just anybody could do this, but the people who dove into it and got behind it really forged a little sort of tribe. And it was amazing. We had our 50th anniversary. When was it, Nikki? Like 5 years ago or something, like 2021. We had our 50th anniversary and all of us were at it. It was amazing. I have a picture of that. Unfortunately, I don't have it here. Okay. I got very few interruptions. Yeah. Yeah.
The barbecue smoker cooking.
No, Duncan Syme actually welded the whole thing up. Yes.
Well.
So one thing that happens to me frequently as an architect is I get somebody coming up to me and saying, geez, we'd really like to build a house, but we can't afford it. And in some cases I say, look, find 2 of your friends and buy land together and build a multifamily house. There's so many cost savings involved that it's really makes it a possibility.
When you guys were building it, was there foresight of, this building's gonna be around for a long time? It was a 2-part question, so there's that. And then what has been the biggest problems that that building has seen?
Okay, yes, good question. We did, yeah, we did hope that it would be around for a long time. Yes. You know, I mean, we were kids, planning for the future, are you kidding me? Um, there was a lot of things that we built into it, which were wrong. You know, we didn't know better. Some of the structure should have been done differently, moisture proofed in a different way. And there's a big debt on the north side of the building. I mean, the reality of it is the building should have been 180 degrees the other direction. So it got really a lot of sun where everybody was hanging out. But, you know, we were looking at active solar at the time. So we didn't do that. But one thing we did, which has been a continuous problem there, is we put a rubber membrane on the deck there. And rubber membrane is it's not vented, and there's a lot of moisture issues with that. Well, I'd say moisture is the biggest, is the thing we knew very, very little about. And we tried to, we did know something about the fire codes, and we did use 5/8 fire code sheetrock on both sides of all the structural walls in the house. So presumably, if there's a fire in one of the houses, it's not gonna go to the other. There were some things we knew enough to plan for, and there were some things we didn't have the training or and I don't think it was actually available that time. I don't think people really knew that much about moisture regime back in the early 80s. Yeah. So yeah, there's some, of course, we made some horrendous mistakes with the concrete. I mean, I don't know if you know what a snap tie is, but a concrete wall, well, there's two pieces of plywood, when you're forming it up, you have two pieces of plywood, and you have these things which hold the two pieces like this. We put one row of snap ties in, so it went like this. We had a concrete wall which was shaped like that. I mean, there's a lot of learning, the learning experience behind that.
Did you incorporate any of those things in your own designs later on? For the concept of having this, you get a section, use that section, that you move into this sort of hollow structure. That's even cool.
I have not done that. I still think it's a legitimate proposal. I think it'd be very, hopefully the Warrentown garage gets passed on next Tuesday. If it does, there's an opportunity for housing in the current location, and maybe something like this could actually work there. I don't know. I still like the idea that you can bring, you can provide electricity, plumbing, septic, driveway, infrastructure to a space and set something up whereby somebody without a lot of training or expense can build into it. I love that idea still. So.
Anybody wants to come visit, please do, we'll be around all weekend.
Yeah, there's some vignettes in Ally's movie too. When you see that. Come on, who's got a question for us?
What's the time?
What's that?
It started in 1971.
Okay, good question. Well, like I say, we're gonna build the whole thing and build our 3 houses and go back to school in the fall. Let's see, the places are, at least in my world, places are always under construction. My family learned to sleep with sawdust on the pillow. That was the deal. Our house, we lived there until 1991. And let's see, we had to make some changes in it because we were having children and there was no place for them to be. I had to figure out how to make a bunk crib. And, we enclosed some spaces which used to be outside and, if you have a house that's your own and you're an architect, you're constantly frigging with it. I've lived in our house, the house that we live in now for 30 something years. And this year we've done two kind of major alterations. So Jefferson, I don't know, Thomas Jefferson was an architect, right? And he was constantly frigging with Monticello. He couldn't get it. That's what we do, especially if you're the guy who's doing the work. Hey, we're gonna do this, change this. Oh, yeah.
Between like multifamily housing and communal housing, and this seems more on the communal end. But as we're thinking like how to reach a greater audience, what parts of that life do you think can be applicable to people who aren't necessarily all a bunch of friends in their 20s? Like, how can we make this more palatable to like a more diverse group?
We each had our own house. We lived in our house. We had our own bedrooms. We had our own kitchen, bathroom. We shopped for ourselves. We did everything for ourselves. The things we shared were the heating system, the driveway, the garden, but we had our own plots in that garden. The well.
One telephone for the whole house.
No, we had 5206, 5207, 5208, 5209, and 5210. And my telephone in my office right now is 5211. And Mac Root has 5204. Yeah.
That was the only number.
Yeah. When we were all in the community building, we had one number. But in answer to your question, this is close. This is not really communal. We each had our own house. Sometimes you didn't see people for a week. The nice thing was everybody's entrance was on the deck. And so people came up and they, hey, how you doing? That felt pretty good. I agree that it's a little more on because we were all friends. And also we all really wanted to make the thing work. Because it was a weird building. And when people came out, I was like, dude, what is this? And you could say, it cost me $225 a month all in to live here. And they couldn't argue with it. So, who knows where you draw that line between a regular multifamily place where each person's got a slot and they have nothing to do with anybody else. You don't know who your neighbor is even. And then, but some things really make sense, like a washer dryer, a sauna, animals, there's a lot of things that really make sense to own collectively. No, okay, not okay. So, yeah, Dana.
A little bit about the kids, but I have to say that all those kids that grew up in that place are still all best friends.
Yeah, out of 12 kids, out of 11 kids, 9 of them wrote their college essay back growing up at Dimetrodon.
And they still
Not very
in
moving.
their 30s and 40s, and they're
Yeah.
still like totally connected. And to me, as a parent, that's amazing to have that community of babysitters and
Yeah,
kids and play and all that. I thought that part was really special.
yeah,
So you were talking about functionally working with a group of people to develop multi-housing units is financially a good idea. However, building a building itself is expensive. You guys are just college students, 20 years old in school. So how did you fund this?
Periodically. We each had $6,000 of jobs that we had had beforehand, so we said, okay, we're gonna put all our money into one account. And we're gonna use it to buy materials. And, the first year I lived, in Vermont, just cost me just under $1,000.
Yeah, it's different time.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
During the summers, when everybody came and all that, because, they were college kids, what was everything? Everybody would, sink $15 in the city a week. One person had shot it. There's everything else. So that was everything.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just thinking about
It's not-
concrete, the price of lumber. like,
Yes,
back then,
I-
combination was 50 years
Yeah.
ago, but
yeah, things are way more expensive, get that. But still, if you're doing it with two other people, you're only into it for a third. You gotta keep that, if you can figure out a way to share some of the infrastructure. I think that's the message.
Jim, do you think that the local zoning fire regulations laws, or I mean?
There just.
From the little I know about it, it seems like.
When you get to 3 families, there are a whole bunch of more regulatory things hoops you have to jump through, and you may need to sprinkler. Now, if we had to sprinkler, we might be able to do it, use the tanks. So. Yeah, I think it'd be difficult to build.
How many inspections do you remember taking place? before you-
A what? Inspection, yeah.
why did you decide to stop at the number of units that you ended up with?
That's a good question. It seemed right. It seemed like 6 families felt about right. 17 acres, the parking lot, the whole thing seemed like doing more, didn't feel like we needed to,
There wasn't limits on the infrastructure.
Yeah, it just felt right, that's where we got to. Yeah.
You said at the beginning, like, you guys were all architects, like, you clearly have that, like, shared interest in, like, experimenting with, like, architecture and, like, the style of living. Did you ever talk about how to, like, extend that interest to people, like, outside the architecture world, like, people who were not necessarily versed in, like, building or design or architecture, but were interested in that more, like, communal type of living?
2 of the people who moved in were not builders and architects.
Yeah, did that happen like because they were like engrossed in the kind of community that you guys had set up at that point?
One was an aeronautical engineer, and he came along, and we were putting up a windmill, and he said, "Whoa, this is cool." And we said, "Well, we've got a slot here," and he said, "Well, you mean for $20,000 I can buy into this?" It was way cheaper than anything else, and he got to determine what kind of space he ended up in. He wasn't buying something. Another guy was a woodworker, and his wife was a school teacher. And they said, we're not into this. This is kind of what we want, and everybody sort of helped them figure out what they wanted, and then, well, a whole bunch of us got together and started to build their place. And then they actually hired somebody to finish it, because while this is happening, we became, the 3 of us became really efficient at doing concrete work and framing and, building basically. And we got hired by, there was a bunch of architects there. So we got hired, to go work on this job, go work on that job. That's the way we were able to keep going with all that. And then the greatest luxury you can possibly have when you're in construction, time, right? It's great to have money, but time is really the greatest thing. And the best example of that is John Connell's building down here at the Wakefield Center. If you haven't seen that, you gotta go down and see it. Because he built that over many years with yes from our students. And he got a chance to sit back every winter and say, it'd be really cool. Yeah. Well, I can get these guys to do it, whatever, time. We did an all concrete building for the guys at Carrera Concrete over in Millbury. And we had 5 years to build the building. And we could say, wait a minute. We can inlay fossils into concrete. We can do this, we can have a precast, amazing thing. And they did. So we spent 20 years working on our house at Dimetrodon. I had a kitchen all designed up and got rid of that, didn't love it. Yeah, Nikki.
One of the coolest things about it is it's big triangle. It's not a square house.
Yeah.
And I guess some of the apartments hang and some are held up and. Can you explain a little bit about it?
The whole idea was this big truss, which I showed in that. And interestingly, when we built the tower, we had this idea that we really knew what we were doing. So what we would do is we would call the concrete company before we actually built the forms. And because we figured, the concrete company, they're gonna take an hour and a half to get here, we can whip the forms up, no problem. And we built the tower, we dug the hole, and there was a spring underneath, a water spring. And so we went to call the concrete company off, and we heard the truck coming up the hill. So we built the tower on a spring, and in the winter, it was outdoors. And in the winter, it froze and lifted the tower up. And 35 feet away, the truss was so strong that 35 feet away, the back of the building was lifted up 3 or 4 inches off of the concrete. I mean, so the trusses were not only a visual thing and an aid to the construction, individual people's construction, they were incredibly strong. And they're box beams. Does everybody know what a box beam is? A box beam is, trusses have the compression is at the top and the tension's at the bottom. And there's a web in between just to connect those two things. A box beam is a bunch of 2x at the top and a bunch of 2x at the bottom and 2 pieces of plywood on either side. And that puts all the stress at the top and the bottom and just attach. And the trusses are 4 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot, and 1 foot going up. 4 foot at the bottom, 3 foot next side, 2 foot, and then 1 foot. And then 2 feet coming down this way and that way. Made it incredibly strong. Is there a question in the back there? Yeah. What do I miss most?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can have Ellen answer that question, but I'll give it a shot. It's just incredibly nice to have people that around you, when Ellen was pregnant with Owen, she had to stay in bed for 2 or 3 months. And these guys folded in on us, they took care of us, they cooked for us, they took care of us. When somebody's got sick, that happened. When somebody's parents passed away, we were, like I say, it was kind of a tribe. And that's, we still have it in a way, because like I say, we all live within a mile of each other. And when something happens to one of us, we're all aware of it. But it was very nice to be out in the garden and, you know, somebody else is out in the garden looking, chit chat with them and things like that. And we were sharing, you know, a huge thing new to our lives, and that was the rearing of children. You know, so we were all going through that at the same time. And it was, you know, there was 11 of them. It was fantastic. I don't think anybody was born right in the building, but who? Oh, okay. Yeah, but while we were at Dimetrodon, 3 kids for us, 2 kids for Connie and Trav, 2 kids for Bill and Alex, and 2 kids for Scotia and Ronnie. Hito's kids were already around. Yo.
Tower.
Okay.
Access to the top.
No. The community building was just this one big open space. And there was a room in it we called the fish bowl, which is at the top. And one couple who lived with us slept in that room. They had a little bit of privacy. The rest of us were sleeping, you know, on the floor, you know, in a line, like 5 guys in a line. And it's very difficult to have a friend over. You know what I mean? So we decided, hey, look, every cool building's got a tower, right? So we said, okay, let's do that. Let's build a tower. So Bill built the first unit. He had an 8x8x8 cube. That tower's, you know, so he built his unit and he built this kind of cool thing. He slept underneath. And then I built the next one, and it had a curved plexiglass thing, and I could stick my head way out and looking down the whole valley. I mean, it was really nice. And then Trav built the one up above me, and he had the same kind of weird plexi thing, and Scotia built the one up above that. And there was a ladder from the bathroom up through the whole tower, up and down, so that everybody could access the bathroom from the tower. You didn't have to go outside. So that, and so, and then at the very top, there was a deck.
So you did have access.
No, we didn't. We didn't want to. We didn't want people going up there. So if you wanted to get up to the top of the tower, you had to get a ladder and put it up there, because we just didn't want people going up there. You know, it was illegal. It was just, you know, not what we wanted. But the whole thing, it was good because everybody had a sort of what we like to call semi-private arrangement. But it didn't do that much for privacy, you know. And it was great fun, you know, with a little design problem. Hey, you gotta live in 8x8x8. Where do you put your clothes? Where do you put your shoes? Where do you know, all that stuff.
What about the little truck window?
The what?
The little truck window.
Trav did. You mean the one that opened the wing window? No, Trav did that. Trav was a really interesting guy to live with because he did all kinds of things. He had this very naive way about him, and he did these amazing design things, you know, just saying, hey, I see, a coffee can might make a good ashtray, and he's smashing it into a, you know, beautiful looking thing. And he's still doing it. He makes things out of bottle caps. You know, I'm sure you've seen. Okay.
What's the state of the building now?
Fully occupied. You know, people live there.
Each unit.
Nikki lives there. She can tell you. Yeah. Yeah, it's low cost housing, you know.
The sign on the side.
What's that?
The sign on the side.
Pegasus, one of our original inhabitants, Eddie Palmer. She got that from a friend, and we decided that had to go up on the side of the building for many years. It was up there, And then she moved to Martha's Vineyard and asked if we could send it back to her, so we did. We had a sign out on the street that was Steve Nikitas, one of our people, painted. It was a Dimetrodon and it was black and white like a Holstein cow. And it said Dimetrodon, or no, registered Dimetrodon.
That's good. We have one now that says by appointment only.
Yeah.
How you have to be appointed.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
So what, like the second generation, so what was the decision of your group moving out and how did you get those new people in?
I'll tell you how it worked for me anyways. We just got to be there was 5 of us living in this place at all these levels and stuff. I mean, it just wasn't working. I could tell you the minute that we decided to move out, but I won't go into it. But anyway, very difficult for all of us to live there at the, and so Trav was the first one to leave. And he had no problem selling his units. He sold it to a woman named Susanna McElwain. And she brought her son there and they became, our next door neighbors. It was great. We left, I think, next. We happened upon a great piece of property very close by that we wanted to move to. And finally built our own house. I also felt the need as an architect to do something that I could show other people. Very difficult to bring a potential client who wants to build a house to Dimetrodon, say, hey, this is what I do. They're like, whoa, are you kidding me? So we moved out. Then I think Ronnie and Skosh decided to build a house and, people outgrew their space, basically. I think that was, in the end, that's what it was.
But the people who moved in.
Yeah.
How did?
Well, let's see, Mike Levengood bought my space. He's a guy who was living in the community building for a long time. He couldn't get a loan, so I took, I gave him basically he paid me back. And I did it over several years and that was fine. I was practicing architect then by that point. So, and he was getting, I think my unit has been sold maybe 3 times, something like that. The woman who's living in it now works at Lawson's, very nice person. Nikki lives in McClay's place. I don't know who, I met the people who live in Hito's place, but I don't know. I think Adam, you live in Trav's place or somebody does? Oh, no, what's his name? What's the guy's name that lives in Trav's place?
2006.
Griffin, yeah.
No,
Okay, so you rented for him. Okay.
and then, we so get together and do dinners and. It's a great place to live. It's got a great vibe. It's not up to code though.
Yeah, it used to be, we had a central heating system for the whole place. A wood-fired boiler, which was really amazing. And you were in charge of it once every 6 weeks. You were in charge of keeping the fire going. And I don't know if anybody here is familiar with wood burning, but it's very difficult to burn a National Geographic magazine, that. But we could take a whole stack of National Geographics bound together, toss them in there and they'd disappear. I mean, it was a hot boiler. And that circulated water to all of our units. That's all taken out now. Yeah, tanks are still there, but now people have individual heating systems in their place. Oh. Anybody else? Yo.
I know you already said that you think of it more family, not as co-housing or something like that, but like, how did you make
group decisions about the shared infrastructure and stuff when things came up that managed conflict and all that? Like, was there something on paper or did you all just kind of go along?
No, we had meetings. We had meetings and I was the secretary. And I think you can still read the minutes of these meetings, they're pretty funny. Decision, I'll tell you what was, everybody wanted to make the thing work, right? So, if we came to a place where we couldn't make a decision on something like the entrance way, that's a really good example. We all got together, everybody had ideas, we couldn't make a decision, so we stepped back and said, let's cool it for a while. And then we said, how can we make this work for everybody, you know? And finally, we decided, hey, you know what, the school teacher's idea is the one that's really probably the best for everybody. So, it was collaborative, but, you know, people really wanted to, you know, take joint ownership is a really interesting thing. If you have joint ownership, you have to negotiate, you have to give and take. There's some battles that are really worth fighting and there's some that aren't. And, you know, generally, we all had similar idea and really wanted to make it work. So I think there was some, you know, ego backpedaling all the way around.
It really was consensus.
Yeah.
Waited long enough.
Yeah,
So you
That's
just
right.
table it till the next.
yeah. Wait a minute, he'll change his mind, just give us a chuckle.
I love about it is that it doesn't start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, it's 9, and 10. Because they never built that other house.
Yeah.
So it starts at 5. Yeah, well, see, right now there's got a good, like, people are woodworking down there and, yeah. Oh, and in the basement, the communal space building turned into its own apartment. So these guys just moved in recent tide. It went viral.
Oh, so you guys live there?
Yeah.
You guys live in the community building?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It went-
well, there's been some changes since we were there. But there's there are some pieces that are still original.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's a lot.
The what? A part of the kitchen, the sink is not, yeah.
And the old toilet that.
Yeah.
I was the last person to shower and
Oh.
the cantilever stuff. Wow, and it's just like there's like a floating mirror between the bathroom, sink, vanity, and the living. So it's just like. There's like copper pipes and faucets coming off the God knows where. Nozzles, you had to turn like 5 nozzles to get the hot water into the tub.
It looks very nice.
It's impressive, yeah.
No, but they did a good job.
You were visited by OSHA, this is all. I did my.
Every afternoon they'd come over and say hi.
The photograph, had to be.
No, no. You know, there were no building permits or any, I mean, there was a building permit. We got a building permit to do the thing. And since there were no drawings, no model or anything, we got a building permit, we said we built a 5-unit, 10-unit place. And, what was the guy's name? I can't remember the building, you know, the zoning administrator at the time. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, we're talking 1971 here, you know, it was a long time ago. Later on, we did more, slightly more normal, you know, less ladders and steep stairs and slightly more, you know.
The Wild West.
Yeah,
And building.
yes.
What did the locals in the town think of you all when you came down into town?
What's that?
What did the locals in the town think of you all when you kind of came off?
You know, we weren't part of the ski scene at all. And this place back in the seventies, early seventies, was really heavily ski oriented. The prickly guys sort of did their own thing. You know, we had a pond and a tennis court and a bunch of people up there who would horse around together all the time. And we were building, we were building Dimetrodon 7 days a week. That's what we did. We went to Montpelier because there was A&P or something up there that had really cheap prices. And we could get a week's worth of food and a 6-pack of Genesee beer for the week, for the three of us, to hold us over, And it was really fun. So we didn't have, for a long time, oh yeah, those guys were all on LSD, because we were building, yeah. Yeah, we were building things that didn't look like anything anybody had ever seen before. I mean, the Bridge House, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of the Bridge House, but the Bridge House, Madden's house, all these places were just, it was like, what?
For the Potato Road Association, it's like 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato.
Yeah.
So it was what, Tack House? Bridge House?
Potato Road Association started right when we got there. It was to run the common land, and the other great thing about it was there was this wonderful hierarchy that you had. You could stay in your own little house, right? If you were feeling, nervous or whatever, you had your own little house, and then you had Dimetrodon, this bigger group of people. And then you had the prickly group, right? Which is the bigger group. Then you had the whole East Warren group. And then you had the Mad River Valley. So there was this really nice way of stepping between instead of having your house in the Mad River Valley, there was all these things in between. It's really nice. Really, it was a nice feeling. Anybody else? Let's have a beer.